We hear nonstop about how many aspects of the game there are for you to be a great Apex player. But there's one part of the game that you have to be good at to be a top player, and that, to no surprise, is fighting. What's up guys, my name is Valued, and today we're going to be diving into exactly what you need to know to perform consistently in your fights and constantly be a threat. I'm super excited and we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. The first step to becoming a great fighter is to have great awareness. So many players think they need to have the best aim or cracked movement to be a threat in Apex. While these things definitely help, your approach to fights and awareness as a fight unfolds is the biggest factor to you coming out on top. You can beam targets all day long, but if you're getting surprised or simply not positioning well in fights, your opportunities to hit those shots are going to be slim. Let's say your team picks a fight with a squad while you aren't right next to them. This happens often in all of our games. We all fan out a bit to grab some loot or go craft, and bam, there's an enemy. When this happens, many of us sprint as fast as possible towards the fight, having no knowledge of what's happening. You don't know where enemies are, you don't know how many there are, and you definitely don't fully understand what your teammates intend to do as a response. Rather than running towards those pings or to your teammates who are low, take a more strategic approach. Of course, you want to get involved as soon as you can to help your squad and win the fight, but if you run in blind, you're just going to get beamed. Instead, keep moving quickly, but play patiently. Wait to see if a teammate hits a scan or calls out exact enemy locations. Look to find high ground or an off angle that allows you to enter the fight in a big way. You have to remember the enemy squad likely doesn't know where you're at, giving you a huge advantage. The same way we all run into fights late and instantly go down, you can enter a fight late strategically and get a massive advantage in that fight. While they're tunneling on your teammates, you can often come into the fight and completely turn it around if you play it right. If you're unsure of where enemies are, then play patient, letting the fight unfold before you put yourself in a dangerous position. You're more useful to your squad alive and with a good position to deal damage than you are sprinting their way and trying to force a res or getting yourself killed while your team heals. If enemies don't have knowledge of your location, don't give this info away for free. Use it to your advantage and find a way to enter the fight in a way that helps your team turn it around. And if you feel like you need help turning your gameplay around, the coaches over at ProGuides.com have you covered. Whether you're looking for a top-level player to assist you in mastering fighting mechanics, or you're looking to master any other aspect of the game, a coaching session is the best first step to take in order to make yourself a great player. If you're ready to fine-tune your gameplay and turn your weaknesses into strengths, then check out the top link in the description below today. Now, so far, we've talked about what leads up to a fight, and having awareness before you enter a fight. But what about when you actually start a fight? You can make all the smart decisions leading up to a fight and still have it go south. So how do you actually take and win a fight after you have a proper understanding of the scenario? Well, for starters, you've got to understand what you're looking for to peak properly. This is a skill a lot of players undervalue. Not only do you need to have good timing on your peaks, but finding good spots to engage from, as well as mechanically pulling off a large variety of peaks, is essential to becoming a great fighter. Let's say you're in a close-range encounter. Your team's taking big damage from an enemy squad in a building, and you're looking to get involved. You could push in near your teammates, bolstering them by joining the fight from shared lines of sight. This approach is a good one if your team is winning the fight, or you're confident that they are in a position to fight back. If you take this route while your teammates are knocked or really low, the enemy squad is going to be pushing them really aggressively, and there's a high chance you get outnumbered or outgunned. You could also look to perform a quick flank, looking for a window or door that would allow you to get big damage on the enemies while they're unaware. This way of taking fights is great if enemies have no knowledge of your location like we talked about earlier, or if your teammates are in a spot that prevents them from actively helping you in the fight. Keep in mind, these types of moves can be really dangerous if you aren't careful. Make sure you're not flanking too far or putting yourself in a position to be singled out. And if you already know your team is behind in the fight, be ready for the enemy squad to try and push you once you find an off angle like this for damage. If they feel like they're ahead, they're gonna look to single you out or finish off your teammates. So guys, no matter how you decide to enter a fight, it's important to understand the importance of quickly peeking and then finding cover. Most weapons in the game can't have constant uptime of damage before needing to reload. And even if they could, you'll die a lot if you're sticking at a fight too long getting greedy for damage. The idea here is to pump damage and then immediately find cover during any sort of downtime. This will not only allow you to reload, cock your weapon, or whatever your specific gun needs for their uptime, but it also gives you a chance to catch the enemy off guard. The last thing you want is to be standing face to face with someone slugging bullets at each other. While things like strafing can help you win these fights, this is putting yourself at a high risk of going down, especially if there's other enemies with sight on you. Instead, constantly look to weave in and out of cover, giving yourself time to reload, heal, or just catch your opponent off guard with some well-timed re-peeks. Many players will start to sprint when they hear someone drop behind cover, or around the corner of a door. This could be a great example of a time to re-peek, catching them in the sprint animation and getting big damage. Depending on your weapon, these peeks will feel and look very different. For shotties like the Peacekeeper, you should look to use cover between every shot if possible. On the flip side, weapons like the Rampage can stay on an angle for a while if they aren't receiving damage, pumping shots for as long as they can before being contested. And other weapons like the R99 can lay down a lot of damage quickly, but need to reload often. Playing around the reload timing on the R99, for example, is a big way people find success with this gun. While we've been talking a lot about contributing individually to fights, it's important to realize the true power of shooting the same enemies as your squad. Team shots are the fastest way to get knocks, and if you can manage to give an enemy early on, your chance of success in the fight skyrockets. Even if you have the worst guns in the game, if 2 or 3 members are hitting their shots on a target, they're gonna go down quickly. With this in mind, you should look to share line of sight with your teammates when possible, even when you're looking for these off angles or other opportunities we've discussed. Being that teammate that always has an angle on an enemy's side while they're in a fight with your team can be really valuable, because the more you can abuse team shots, the better. This also allows you to single out enemies quickly and capitalize on their poor positioning. You can often catch stragglers of enemy teams when they're fanned out scouting the map, but often they're able to retreat to their squad before you can get a knock. Team shotting is a good example here as well, allowing you to get a lot more damage down quickly and raising the chances of getting those knocks by a ton. Isolating targets like this and attempting to get that first down through team shots is an incredible way to start a lot of your fights in the driver's seat. The last major topic I want to talk about today is not losing pressure to mistimed heals. So many players will look to instantly heal upon taking damage, or they'll wait until they're nearly dead to heal. I'm really not sure why, but most people fall into one of these two categories. The reality is, the best way to view healing is a mixture of the two approaches. You should look to be proactive with your heals, but also need to understand how pressure works, and how your healing influences it. The rule of thumb is, if you're ahead of your opponent in total HP and you're in range to finish them off, you should usually look to do so. Ending fights fast is super important in Apex, as you're constantly looking to avoid third parties. If you get into a fight with a team, you're gonna attract a ton of attention. Rather than viewing your health pool and healing based on this, think about where your health pool is compared to the enemies. While you don't want to let yourself get too low, if you have some shields left or even a good amount of HP when you know the enemy is low, stay confident and finish the fight. Remember, if you can get access to their death box, an armor swap is the fastest way to top off those shields. Rather than healing in every situation, look to heal when you know you have the luxury to do so. If you're taking a long range fight, sell early and often. And if you get cracked but have time before the enemy pushes you, instantly pop a battery and be ready to fight when it finishes. If you're using a cell to top off as an enemy pushes you and gets a free knock, that healing is far from worth it. I catch players in these types of greedy heals all the time, and I have to say it lets me get a lot of easy fights. So look guys, as we all know, fighting is a complicated, ever-changing skill that requires you to be on your toes at all times. But if you follow the advice I talked about today, you'll not only win fights yourself, but put yourself in a position to be as valuable to your squad as possible. Let me know in the comments below which part of today's video you're gonna look to work on. As always guys, it's been your boy Valued, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.